Hello, Kidney Warriors! James here from Dadvice TV, your online kidney health coach, and this is the very first video of 2024. Hey, thanks for being here with us. We are going to start the year off helping you guys better understand kidney disease, better take control, be proactive, and do what you can. And the one thing that you have the most control over when it comes to kidney disease is your diet, the foods that you eat, the things that you drink. Those play a huge role in helping to potentially slow down the progression of your kidney disease, maybe even put the brakes on it and halt it, help you address some of the symptoms, maybe even eliminate them if you can, get everything all balanced just right. There's so much you can do with diet, but the best thing, or the most important thing when it comes to diet, is knowing what are some good choices for you and how much. It's not that we're afraid of foods and we need to completely avoid all these foods. It's that we want to learn, hey, how can I make good choices, good portion control, to be as healthy as possible, to not put too much of a extra burden on my kidneys so they can better keep up with me. Now, the number one source for that information is a renal dietitian. Believe me, that is by far the single best thing you can do, is add a renal dietitian to your healthcare team. They are going to give you the tools, the skills, the knowledge to not be afraid of food, to actually love mealtime and building these amazing looking, colorful, bright, delicious, flavorful meals that you're just going to love eating, that are not going to make you feel bad or have your doctor looking at your labs and saying, things aren't right. Now, for this show, we are going to do a live Q&A where you guys out there, you can ask your questions to a real, genuine, 100% authentic renal dietitian. And you guys who are regulars here at Dadvice TV, you know who I'm talking about. Please give a great big giant welcome for renal dietitian Jen Hernandez of plantpoweredkidneys.com. Hey, Jen.
Hey,
I forgot to adjust that camera. There you go.
we were too busy chatting and catching up, so that's okay. It was fun. So just so you all know, in case you're brand new here, you've not met me, my name is Jen Hernandez. I am a registered dietitian and I specialize in kidney disease. So I'm a renal dietitian. And I have been thrilled to be chatting with James here. We are losing track of the time because it's been years now, officially, as we're getting into 2024. But I've been helping kidney patients with protecting their kidneys since 2018, when I first started Plant Powered Kidneys. And before that, I was a dialysis dietitian and I worked with the National Kidney Foundation. So I have a lot of experience, a lot of history in supporting people in all different stages of kidney disease. And that's what I really, really love doing, is protecting people at whatever stage they're at with kidney disease, because there's always a change that can be made. I had some great conversation with some great people today talking about their kidney health and what they can do. And that was one of the things that we all really talked about, is there's always something that is there to make changes and support kidney health through the diet, through nutrition, through lifestyle. And it's really, really incredible when it comes together. So I'm absolutely thrilled to be back on for another live Q&A to answer your questions tonight. And if you are interested in getting more information from us, learning about the other dietitians at Plant Powered Kidneys, getting some of our free resources, our free articles, our free meal plans, you can go to plantpoweredkidneys.com. And we have a ton of stuff there. And we also have our free Facebook group. So you can find us in Facebook at Plant Powered Kidneys and join our free group there. It's private, so your Facebook friends will not see what you post in that group. It will be only in our community. And we are there to also answer your questions and support you. And you'll connect with literally thousands of other kidney warriors just like yourself that want to focus on a more plant-based diet to protect their kidneys. So hopefully we get some good resources there for you guys. And we're also getting more videos out on YouTube now. So I'm finally able to,
Yay.
I'm able to take that on. So we'll have some more videos coming up here on YouTube for you on our Plant Powered Kidneys account.
Great. Now, our first question, everyone out there, go ahead. This is live. Type in your questions and they'll appear on our screen, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. Our first question comes from a regular, Patricia. Patricia Wilson asks, how can a person with CKD keep their potassium down?
Yeah, this is a good question. It's really, really common that people are concerned about their potassium. Now, I cannot possibly answer this. Even in our 30-minute chat tonight, I won't be able to answer it. It's way, way too big. It's a lot of information, but I'm going to try to give you some ideas of where to go from here if you're concerned about your potassium. So first of all, higher potassium is usually a concern for later stages of kidney disease. So stage 4, stage 5, preparing for dialysis. A lot of dialysis patients can have potassium issues because of their lower kidney function, and then issues related to the adequacy of dialysis, their type of dialysis, things like that. There's other non-nutritional factors that can also change how your body regulates your potassium. So besides what you're eating, which is what everybody's worried about, is how can I eat less potassium? How can I reduce that? That might not even be the issue. And I do find this actually quite often, because patients are already not eating very much and definitely not eating a ton of potassium. So really, first of all, make sure you're tracking to see how much potassium you're actually eating, because if it's a very low amount, there's a good chance that it's not related to your diet. It could be related to your gut health, because our gut is also responsible for controlling potassium. In fact, with later CKD, there's been really interesting research to show how the gut kind of compensates for that lower kidney function by helping to remove potassium. But if your gut isn't healthy, as in if you have constipation, you're not going to the bathroom frequently, or even if you have like diarrhea, if you just have like abnormal gut issues, that can impact your potassium levels. So make sure you're looking at that, talking with your healthcare professional about how to address those sides of things. Sometimes doctors will recommend medications, but then also keep in mind side effects with that. And then again, looking at the root cause of what's going on. For us, we're usually looking at the diet. So we're looking at what is going on with your food that's causing these issues. Now, other non-nutritional factors could be losing muscle and you're having breakdown that's causing potassium changes. It could be related to metabolic acidosis, which can it can also release the potassium. So there's other factors, again, that are not nutritional connected to potassium levels. So I really, really like stressing that, because potassium in the diet, it gets too much blame and people just kind of default to it. And instead of looking at different options, different potential reasons why potassium is high, we hear it all the time. Doctors say, oh, just stop eating tomatoes, stop eating potatoes, stop eating avocados. And our clients, our people are like, I don't even eat that anyway. Like, I'm not eating that. So what else is there? And that's when people start getting really nitty gritty. I had somebody in our course today asking about rice and saying, oh, it's 100 milligrams of potassium, but that's low potassium. So that's not going to be a big factor in your potassium in your diet. And it's not going to be a big factor in the potassium in your blood level, especially.
Yep. Now, Paulette has a question that I love. And Paulette, I am living proof that you can eat a plant-based diet and gain weight. Now, I'm working on mine. I'm trying to put the brakes on the gaining and reduce my weight. But Paulette says she's losing weight on her diet. She's not overweight, but she's worried. She has another comment on here that she's not sure a plant-based diet's the way to go if you want to gain weight. So can you talk about what a person can do to help get those extra calories in to gain weight while still sticking with a healthy plant-based diet?
Yeah, and this is definitely something I hear all the time. Again, it goes back to this fundamental problem of being scared of eating food, being scared of not knowing what to eat with CKD. And so when we're looking really specifically at eating enough calories to prevent that weight loss, because not everybody wants to lose weight. And I was talking with, again, somebody else earlier today who was saying that they had lost weight after making changes. So focusing on regaining that weight is a very important thing. And everybody has their own personal preferences of what they want their weight to be, where they feel really good. So if you are looking to gain some weight, I definitely love encouraging more healthy fats into the diet. So avocado oil, olive oil. Avocado oil is great for cooking. Olive oil is great for like salad dressings and colder things that don't require a lot of heat. You can even add coconut oil into recipes. It is fantastic. And really adding these healthy fats, just a tablespoon will be about 120 calories. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but just test it out for yourself. And just as you're adding some oil to your pan, measure out the tablespoons and look at it in your pan to see visually what that looks like, because it really, you can add a few healthy splashes in there and that'll add several hundred calories. So I think adding those healthy oils, especially when we're incorporating more plants like vegetables, and we're cooking up those vegetables, or we're making a big salad or a pilaf or something, like that is a good way to go. Now, we're talking from kind of the bottom up. So I'm talking about like cooking your food and prepping it. Now I'm thinking about like finishing your food, adding a garnish. You could add a sprinkle of nuts and seeds onto a dish for added texture, added flavor, and again, healthy fats and calories. Nuts are a high calorie food. Nut butter also is a high calorie food. And again, a tablespoon or a small handful of nuts can go a long way in giving you more calories for how much you put on your dish. So definitely nut butters, if you're going to make like a dressing or something, like a peanut sauce for a stir fry, or like a noodle stir fry kind of dish, that can be really good. Or even almond butter mixed into oatmeal, something like that, mixed into a smoothie, added into a sandwich. I mean, there's a lot of different options where you can add nuts and nut butter, even just like as a snack. Totally fine. So like Kind bars, I think Kind bars are a great snack. They're kidney friendly. Even though they're based on nuts and everything, they're actually quite low in potassium. So if you have a dietary potassium issue, they can still fit, which I think is really, really great. So those are kind of my bigger tips on how to get more calories in. And then along those lines, I really do encourage tracking your food. So using Cronometer or something similar to that every now and then to see how much you're getting in. And then finally, I've got to put this plug in. I know we'll probably put it in later too, but if you really are concerned about your weight loss, if you're concerned about not getting enough nutrition, this is a great opportunity to ask your doctor for a referral to a dietitian. You let them know you're concerned about your weight, you're concerned about your weight loss, and that most importantly, if you tell them, I'm not trying to lose weight, but I'm losing weight, that is a red flag in the medical field. So if you're telling them, I'm losing weight and I don't want to, they should be digging into what's going on with that. Even when doctors have their own perspectives of saying, oh, well, you needed to lose weight, so that's fine. If it's not intentional, it's not a healthy weight loss. So talk with your doctor, talk with your healthcare team to see a dietitian and help get you on track and get you up there in your calories and better understand your nutrition so that you don't lose more weight, because that can be really scary.
Yeah. And we have a lot of great questions coming in. Now, this one's related to something you just mentioned. What are your recommendations for measuring food to know how much you are eating? Carlene, I believe I'm pronouncing her name correct, is having problems knowing how to measure the proteins, carbs, sodium, etc. And we kind of touched briefly on that.
Yeah. So as far as like technology goes, I am a fan of Cronometer. In fact, if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook today, I actually posted a story talking about lunch, and I took a screenshot of Cronometer to show how it logged in, how it was negative prowl, how it provided a lot of healthy fiber. Anyway, I think Cronometer is really, really great, but there's other types of food journals that you can use. I even have some students doing pen and paper, and they're kind of eyeballing and estimating. Any type of tracking, even something like Cronometer, there's going to be some room for error. It's not perfect. So take the numbers with a grain of salt, that it's just, there might be um, a little bit of inaccuracy, but if at least it's giving you some numbers, some information, you can use that with your dietitian and your healthcare team to pair that with your lab results. So for that side, I would recommend Cronometer. Now, if Carlene was talking about like physically what to use, I have a food scale. So, measuring out portions using a food scale, I think is really, really helpful. One of the easiest ways to use it is to put your plate, put your bowl or your dish on the food scale, zero it out, and then start adding your food. See however much, whatever food it is you're adding, get it to the number that you want, whether it's like 2 or 3 ounces of protein, or if it's 100 grams of a certain carbohydrate, whatever the case is. And then just zero it out every time. So every time you can add a different food component, and then you're measuring it out that way. That can be an easy way to go about it. But then also make sure you're eating mindfully and you're not just eating your food because you measured it out. So pay attention to your food as you're eating it.
Yeah, when I first started, I got a little food scale. They're so affordable on Amazon, little digital ones. I got one with the tear button. So you lay your bowl or your plate on there, you hit the tear button, it zeroes out.
Mm-hmm.
It says, okay, yep, now let's figure out how much things weigh. But it didn't take me long at all to now be able to look at it and tell, oh, that's 3 ounces. That's probably about 5 ounces. That's 2 servings. That's a serving of almost everything. And then with Cronometer, two great things about it. One, there's a free version that has almost everything you need in there. If you pay for it, you get to get in a bit more detail. You can set some targets, and it'll show you where you're tracking for your targets. But what helped me a lot in the beginning was I did pay for it then, and there's a web interface, and I created a login for my doctor. So when it came time for me to go in for the results of my labs, I'd go and get my blood work, go in for another appointment to review it. We could look at what I ate, and he could say, hey, this is why your sodium's so low. Look at, you're not eating enough of it. Go ahead. It's great. You got rid of the fast food. You cut out the bad sources of all that high sodium. Now you're on the low side. Feel free to add a bit more with the salt shaker. But that made it so easy to kind of start tweaking things, and that being perfect exact doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, am I going the right direction? So fantastic app. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. We got some more questions in here. There's a few of them. I'm going to save them for next week. A few that are talking about Ozempic and the current weight loss drugs. We'll have Dr. Rowe on next Monday. He's going to talk about brand new research that just came out the end of last year about weight, your where you should be, and its role on CKD. And he's going to talk about these drugs that are out there that a lot of people are interested in getting. And he's going to talk about when it may be the right time for you to consider one of those. I was hoping one of those would be right for me. Talk to my doctor. They said, no, not right for you. So it's not an injection that fixes everything for everybody. But we'll talk about that next week for the people who are asking a few questions about that. Evelyn says that she hears somewhere that eggs are good for your kidneys, bacon, grease, and pork chops. I don't know about that, Evelyn, but she's interested in what are your thoughts on Spam? And I love Spam. Used to go to Hawaii all the time. I think it's well, you used to live in Hawaii. It feels like that's the state food is Spam.
Yeah. It is, yeah. I remember seeing there's just like huge displays for Spam, and it was just it just reminded me how the different locations, different areas, different cultures, it's just so interesting to see different food perspectives. It's very, very interesting. So, yeah, Evelyn, so Spam itself is quite a processed. It's a very processed meat. So I'm not going to say, I'm going to look up the nutrition information while I'm talking. I'm not going to say it's good for kidneys per se because it is very, very high in sodium. That's like right off the bat. I don't even need to look at the nutrition information to know that. Let's see, Spam Light is 580 milligrams of sodium for 2 ounces, and that's 1/6 of a container, which if you've seen Spam, it's not a big container. So a 2 ounce portion of that usually, if my memory serves, a regular container is going to cover 2 or 3 meals at most. So it's quite high in sodium. The classic Spam is, for the same serving size, 2 ounce, is 790 milligrams of sodium. So it is very high in sodium. That right there, I'm not going to be crazy about. I'm not saying it's something that anybody could never have. Like, we're not going to put this huge, like, never ever. I'm just saying, understanding that it's going to be high in sodium might make you feel bloated. It might raise your blood pressure. You might not feel so good if you're having a dish that has a lot of Spam in it. So I would be careful with that. Looking at the ingredients, at least online, I don't see any phosphate additives. But also just keep in mind that companies can change their ingredient lists at any point in time without warning. So if we're doing this live on January 2nd, 2024, tomorrow they could do a whole new product and they could come out and there could be phosphate additives in there and it could be totally different. So all of that to say, just check the labels, check the ingredient lists. We're looking for phosphate additives, PHOS, because those are harder on the kidneys and they're harder on the bones. They're harder for our cardiac health. So that would be definitely something to look at. They don't list potassium. So I don't know exactly, without digging deeper, I don't know what the potassium content is, but we do know that meat does have potassium, just like we do as humans. So animal meat does have potassium in it. I just don't know how much here. So if it's something that is, again, culturally really relevant and important to you, and it's something that you would want to include, I would just be looking at how can we include it along with other foods that are kidney supportive, meaning more vegetables, more whole grains, things that are going to help distribute that sodium content. So you don't need to add salt to much of the rest of the dish. That could be a more helpful way to have it as part of your diet. And in general, processed meats are going to be lower on the good for kidneys. But there's always a but, right? There's always like, but then there's this. So the other clause or the other condition that we have is for somebody who's on dialysis who has higher protein needs, then eggs could be good for the kidneys because the protein is helping them with their energy and their protein needs. Bacon isn't really a protein, it's a fat. So I mean, when you do bacon, bacon grease, you know that it's a really high fat food. So this type of fat is not very heart healthy. It's not very kidney friendly. So again, it's not something to say like you could never have it again, but keep in mind the higher sodium, the higher fat, and then bacon also is commonly I've found phosphate additives in bacon quite often. So same with pork chops, because oftentimes they're injected with some type of solution, some type of like flavoring or something. So check to see if there's any phosphate or even potassium additives in those. Yeah, any of those things I would say, if it's something that's really important to you, that you really enjoy and you want to keep in your diet, look for ways to add other kidney friendly foods, again, whole grains and vegetables in particular, into your diet with that meal to help balance it all out.
Perfect. Now, here is a wonderful question. I know there's a lot of people in the audience have the same question. It comes from Tyler, and he's trying to go plant-based diet. And his question is around plant-based sources of protein. When he looks things up like beans, he's seeing high potassium and phosphorus, so that's got him concerned. Can you help him out?
Yeah. Okay. So I love this question. I am a big fan of adding more of those plant proteins to the diet. And actually, some of the benefit is in the potassium and the phosphorus. So, first of all, as I mentioned before, for potassium, it's later stages that we see more of a concern with potassium levels and with potassium management. The earlier stages, those that do not have a medical nutritional indication to say a low potassium diet is needed, potassium can actually be incredibly powerful in protecting our kidneys. So potassium is really helpful to help with our cardiac health, to help with our muscles. It's very, very important. And so we don't want to just assume that potassium needs to be limited if we have no reason to. If we haven't talked with our healthcare team and they haven't specifically said, you, certain person, need to be on a low potassium diet. So again, just to reiterate that, we don't need to look at potassium if it's not an issue. Phosphorus. Phosphorus, the old renal diet was really concerned about phosphorus in whole grains and nuts and seeds and beans and legumes. And I remember, even as a dietitian in the dialysis clinic, having talks with my patients about eating less beans, eating less whole grains. And it kills me to say it, but that was how I was trained as a dietitian coming into dialysis. And that's what the diet was back then. So that's what we were told to teach, and that's what we saw. But newer research now does show us that the phosphorus in these plant foods is not digestible. We do not have the enzyme to break it down and absorb that type of phosphorus very well. So that's when we get into this concept of organic and inorganic food, or phosphorus. There we go. So organic phosphorus comes naturally from foods, just like we naturally have phosphorus in us. So naturally comes in, does not get broken down well by our human bodies. Inorganic phosphorus, that's what I mentioned earlier when I talked about looking at nutrition and food labels to look at the ingredient list. Inorganic phosphorus is phosphorus that's added to food, and sometimes it's used as a preservative or some type of thing to help with the food, most often a preservative. So any ingredient that has PHOS, so for example, phosphoric acid, that's really, really commonly found in cola. So if you find that, that is a phosphorus additive. It's inorganic phosphorus, and that is the kind that's more harmful in the long term to kidney patients, specifically because the phosphorus is more absorbed and it's not released. It's not being managed by the kidneys. So that's why we want to kind of differentiate, and beans are no longer a concern for phosphorus when the absorption is much, much lower.
I would be very sad if I was not able to get my chickpeas and other beans and stuff like that. Yeah. But let me tell you, Tyler, I was in the same boat in the very beginning. I ate in that first week after my diagnosis. I ate some of the worst meals ever for lack of flavor by trying to zero sodium. Oh, I remember my quest on zero sodium. I didn't realize I need some sodium. I just don't need excessive amounts of it. Food did not taste good, which made me not want to eat, which meant I wasn't getting the nutrients my body needed. But I was there. I was worried also about beans. But when I learned, like what Jen just said, the chemicals, phosphorus, that we're absorbing a lot. That's where we got to really watch it. The natural ones, we don't have to worry as much. It's so little that does get absorbed. And if you're using a lab, an app to track what you eat, and you're looking at your labs, your doctor will help you find that balance. Or if you're working with a renal dietitian, they're going to help you find that balance to where you get to enjoy all the foods you want and have something really great in there. Now, we are getting near the end of our time, Jen, but here's a great question. Helen asks, what is a good salt substitute? What are some options I can use if I don't want to use salt, but I still want flavor?
I was just talking about this when I was explaining my lunch today on Facebook and Instagram. So one of my favorite options is citrus. So using lemon, using lime, these can add a lot of flavor to your foods, and it doesn't have sodium. So, keep some lemons and limes on hand. If you want to keep them longer, you can put them in a container of water, like a jar, I have a really big mason jar with a lid. So I'll fill them up in there, fill it with water, put the lid on, and put it in my fridge. And the water helps keep them longer in the fridge, so you don't have to use them up that fast. but that's a really, really great way to add flavor. Of course, herbs and spices, whether they're fresh or dried, however you like them, you have so many to choose from. You have cilantro, you have parsley, you have basil, you have mint, you have garlic. I mean, chives, thyme. Oh my gosh. Okay. They're all really, really great. And it's really fun to just experiment with them,
Yep.
smell them, taste them a little bit, see what kind. You can do a ton of, there's so much stuff online. If you just said like what goes with thyme or, whatever you're looking for, there's so much information out there. But ultimately, it's based on your taste and your preferences. So try some out. Dash has a lot of great like blend combinations. There's Chef Prud'homme's that has a lot of great salt-free options. Tons and tons of spice companies are coming up with no salt seasonings. So you have a lot of options out there. If anything, it's almost too much. It feels overwhelming because we have so many options.
But you can do so much magic with the flavor. Now, what about things that say salt substitute? Should I be reaching for those off the shelf?
Oh, that's a good point. So, if you see something that's labeled as a salt substitute, chances are it's some form of potassium. Potassium chloride is really, really commonly used for this. And sometimes you might even see on the label it says a good source of potassium. So, it's telling you this is a potassium rich food. This can be really, really high in potassium. So I would be super cautious with these. I don't generally recommend them ever because of the concerns of potassium that people may have. And I don't want to rock the boat that way. I'd much rather see you get potassium from a wide variety of foods rather than put a little bit onto your meal and then end up having potassium issues. So stay away from the salt substitutes that are all about potassium and look more at the herbs and spices. Now, along those lines too, because there's some questions that come up about MSG, and that could be a viable option for you. MSG can be included in a kidney-friendly diet. It's kind of personal preference. And I know some people say that they get headaches or they get flush when they have MSG. Some people might have an allergy to it. So just, personal preference on that. But in general, it is kidney safe and you can use it as a salt substitute.
All right, Jen, that is the end of our time with just a few moments over. I want to thank you for your time. Now, Jen will be here. She's here every month doing a live Q&A where you can ask questions, but you can learn so much more on her website, plantpoweredkidneys.com, in her amazing private Facebook group. So you're not airing your laundry out for the whole world to see. It's private, it's fenced in. You're with other positive and supportive kidney patients. Jen is very good at making sure people are staying on topic, staying supportive, helpful, and positive. Links to all that and more are in the description below the video. Definitely check all that stuff out. Jen will be here next month. Now, next week on Monday, Dr. Rosansky will be here at 7 p.m. Eastern, same time as tonight, talking about the latest research on weight and obesity and its impact on kidney disease. And he'll also be talking about the medications that are out there that we see a lot in the news. They're very expensive. They're making a lot of money, so they're being promoted a lot.
Yeah.
But I appreciate everyone being here. Appreciate you so much, Jen. Have a great 2024. We're all starting it off on the right foot. This is fantastic. And I'll see everybody next week in the next video. Bye, everyone.